landscape. Boatwright had apparently not put in sufficient effort, according to some opinions, since the laws against NIL had been lifted in Kansas. Pittsburgh star wide receiver Jordan Addison has recently entered the transfer portal. Addison is a projected first-round pick in next year's NFL draft, and if he stayed at Pitt, will be the focal point of the Pittsburgh offense. But his entry into the portal has brought up issues with NIL regulations and tampering. I even saw an article yesterday that accused now USC head coach Lincoln Riley of tampering multiple times throughout his coaching career. USC does happen to be one of those teams in the hunt for Addison, according to some reports. One major issue here is the allure of Los Angeles and the money that can be offered due to the loose NIL guidelines. It's something that worries people because donors can essentially go out and buy players onto their teams by offering millions in NIL, which is not what NIL was intended to do. But you also knew with the loose restrictions that this is what was going to happen. So in an effort to combat this and other recruiting threats, the NCAA has passed some amended guidelines. The new policy redefines boosters as individuals, independent agencies, corporate entities, or other organizations promoting the institution's intercollegiate athletics programs. It states that boosters are precluded from recruiting activities on behalf of the school and reiterates that the NIL deals are not pay-for-play. Deals can also not be guaranteed or contingent on enrollment at a particular institution, and meetings cannot be organized by coaching staff. The deals must be based on the value each athlete brings instead of providing compensation due to athletic performance and membership on a team. I mean, that clarifies things a little bit. I'm not sure how far it actually goes. We'll see if that actually helps bring any benefit and further understanding in these deals. 24/7 Sports also recently polled coaches throughout the country about issues with the transfer portal and what needs to change. Among the suggestions were portal windows, which coaches cited because of the exhaustion of calculating their fluid rosters and the alleged tampering that goes on before a player has even officially entered the portal. The windows would occur once after the regular season and one more time after spring practices, which to me is completely logical. The NCAA is reportedly worried about lawsuits on that. They've also proposed a minimum GPA to allow you to transfer. A plan if you can only go if your coach is fired or leaves. You must spend a calendar year at a school. It's even been talked about eliminating the early signing period. Coaches are concerned that the portal could lead to more focus on transfer recruiting and less focus on high school recruiting. In basketball, transfer portal news, we have an interesting development with Miami guard Isaiah Wong, who's currently participating in the NBA draft process, but remains eligible to return to school after not hiring an agent. Recently threatened to transfer if his NIL compensation was not increased, but ended up backtracking less than a day later, really. He reportedly wanted his deal to more accurately depict his importance to the Miami team. Where he averaged over 15 points per game each of the last two seasons, and I think he could work really well if he returns to school with transfer guard from Kansas State, Nigel Pack. We have a number of guys who have picked their transfer destinations in the past week or two. Michigan State's Julius Marble transfers to Texas A&M. Johnny Broome from Murray State is headed to Auburn. Frankie Collins, the Michigan point guard, is headed to Arizona State. Baylor Shireman, the star for the South Dakota State team, is heading to Creighton. Like I said, Nigel Pack is going from Kansas State to Miami. SMU star guard Kendrick Davis is headed to Memphis. Texas Tech forward Terrence Shannon is headed home to play for the Illinois Fighting Illini. Texas Tech will get Utah Valley transfer big man Ferdoz Aimaq, as well as Texas transfer Jalen Tyson. Brandon Huntley Hatfield goes from Tennessee to Louisville. KJ Williams from Murray State, the big man averaged over 18 points per game last year, heads to LSU. Center Manny Bates from NC State is headed to Butler. Illinois guard Andre Curbelo is headed to St. John's. UConn big man Akok is headed to Georgetown. Keon Brooks and a couple Kentucky guys are in the portal, and I don't think any of them are actually transferring. I think they'll go pro, especially Brooks. Teddy Allen, the star from New Mexico State, also in the portal, but also expected to go pro. And then there's some notable guys still available. The former number 1 overall recruit, basketball prodigy, reclassified to play for Memphis last year, Emoni Bates, projected to pick Louisville right now, but he's in the transfer portal. Sharpshooting Baylor big man Matthew Mayer is in the portal. Louisiana Tech center Kenneth Lofton, Missouri State guard Isaiah Mosley, Wisconsin-Milwaukee forward Patrick Baldwin Jr., although he may end up going to the NBA as he's going through that process as well. Iowa State guard Tyrese Hunter, Memphis forward Josh Minot, Chattanooga guard Malachi Smith, Stanford wing Jaden Dallaire, LSU guards Xavier Pinson and Adam Miller, St. Bonaventure guard Kyle Lofton, and center Asun Olui, Northwestern big man Pete Nance, and Nevada wing Grant Sherfield. Hall of Fame coach and legendary basketball announcer Dick Vitale will receive the Jimmy V Award at this year's ESPYs. The award is named after the former NC State head coach Jim Valvano, who passed away after a battle with cancer and gave a legendary speech at the ESPYs after winning the award. Vitale has been fighting cancer this year and was recently informed that his case was in remission. And on a sad note here at the end of the show, former Michigan State and NBA power forward Adrian Payne was shot and killed over the weekend in Orlando. Reports say that he was involved with trying to stop a domestic violence dispute, and the shooter saw him as a threat and shot him. The shooter did remain on the premises and is in custody. Payne was the 15th overall pick by the Atlanta Hawks in the 2014 NBA draft after averaging 16.4 points per game and 7 rebounds while shooting 42.3% from 3. As a senior big man, he spent time with several NBA clubs and formed a solid basketball career overseas. In September, he announced he was taking a break from basketball because his son needed brain surgery and he wanted to spend more time with his son. And like I said, shot trying to help alleviate a domestic dispute at the shooter's home. And he was just 31 years old. You might also remember him from his story supporting Lacey Holsworth with her battle of childhood cancer when he was at Michigan State. As a lifelong MSU fan, current Michigan State alum, and someone who was a student while he was there and on the team, it was really tough news to hear. He's one of my favorite players to watch, and not only was he great on the court, but everybody seemed to love to be around him. And I saw firsthand from being on campus how much everybody embraced him. Even people who didn't even know him and weren't part of the basketball program. So he's always going to be remembered as a Spartan great for what he did on and off the court. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Travis on Sports podcast, available on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, and now several other podcasting outlets like Podchaser, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and a few more other ones. Thank you again for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll be back with a new episode and more sports news next week.